Hi, everyone. Can you all see and hear me? Okay, cool. So my name is Shammamah Hossain, and I am a software engineer here at Plotly. I'm working on the Dash DAQ library. So today I'm going to show you a little bit about how to build a manufacturing dashboard with Dash DAQ. So let me just share my screen. All right, so you guys can all see? Okay, cool. So this is the application. Tell you a little bit more about it. So this is basically a dummy application that maybe someone in a factory would use in order to monitor their production levels, things like that. So first of all, I'm going to be going through all of the controls. So first up, on the top right, you can see this start-stop button. So that can basically halt production or start production whenever you want. And you can see that the graph and all of these displays here are updating every second. And then here you have a Start New Batch button. So if you press it, then you can add an annotation to the graph that signifies where the previous batch ended and where the current batch is starting. Here we have a LED display component that shows the batch number, as well as a little timestamp that also updates every time you start a new batch. So for example, you can see the time updating. Here we have some little LED indicators that show the status of different rooms. So for example, if it's yellow, then it's just a warning sign. If it's red, then it means that you need to go check that room. And then if it's green, then all is good. Over here, we have the cycle time in hours. And you can see that this is a Dash DAQ gauge component. And you can see that there's a little color gradient here, which signifies if it's taking too long, if it's very fast, or if it's sort of in the middle. And then time to completion, which is another gauge component, but this one doesn't have a color gradient. Here we have graduated bars. This is called the graduated bar component. And this basically shows the levels of different substances that you have. So if we start, we can see this also updating from second to second. So you can easily see if you're running out of a crucial ingredient in your manufacturing process. And here we just have a normal thermometer that shows the temperature in the manufacturing room. And this is, again, a Dash DAQ component. So are there any questions, first of all, about the app? Okay, so let's try adding in a new control or a new display. So let me just share a different. So this is the app code that I have. So you can see that all of the components here, for example, the stop button, this is in its own control box. And the component name is just stop button. And for the gauges, for example, you have here, so these, start with stop screen refreshing, not production line, correct. It can do anything. So the way that Dash works is that you have callbacks. So right here, stop button, for example, you can connect it to anything that can interface with Python. So if, for example, you wanted to send a signal to a machine to stop production, then you would be able to do that if you can communicate with the machine through Python, for example, over like a serial connection or something. Does that answer your question? Right now, it's just connected to some dummy data. Like, this data doesn't really mean anything, but of course, all of these could be hooked up to different inputs, all of the controls. So right here, I'm making use of Dash's new ability to, yep, I will share the sample code. So it's all going to be in a GitHub repository. Do you want me to share it right now or later? Okay, cool. I'll share it at the end. Could you show the database or data polling interface? Yes. So what I'm using is one of our Dash core components, which is called a dcc.interval. So you give it an ID just like any other component. You can choose the interval. So this is in milliseconds. So right now you can see that it's updating every second. But if, for example, you wanted to update every half of a second, you can do something like this. And it updates more frequently. Language are you using? This is all done in Python. So I'm just using Dash, which has a Python interface. Yep, it does. So this is a pretty great addition. We also have callback triggering context. So you'll be able to tell which input actually triggered a callback. I haven't implemented that in this application specifically, but you can see that the code is incredibly clean. And this sort of makes more sense logically because every interval you're only really doing one thing. So that corresponds to one callback that updates all of these. Okay, cool. So let's say that we want to add another control to this app. So here at the bottom, we already have permitted defective units per 1,000 units. So you can change this. So let's say we can allow for 167 defects per 1,000 units. Then you just update that and you can see right here. And then that data could be sent back to the machine or to the manufacturing room or anything that you want. Okay, so let's add in another control after that one. Sorry, I'll share my screen, my full screen. Sure, yeah, I can explain state right now. So callbacks are triggered by inputs, right? So whenever something in your inputs changes, then this function is called. But state is basically a read-only thing. So if you want to read from something, but not necessarily trigger every time something updates, then you would put it in a state. User input to change the defect rate. Yeah, so we have that right here. Sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen before. So down at the bottom left, you can change this to be whatever you want. So let's say 200. And it updates right away. Okay, so let's go back and add in a new control. So this is just a Dash HTML components div. And here you'll notice that all of the control boxes I have class names. This basically is just for CSS so that you can style all of them. That's why they all look uniform. Anyway, so let's add that. Let's say that we want to add another numeric input. Which can be maybe how much precursor to order next time. And then units. And then you can again add another DAQ.precision input. Precursor, order. Let's say the max you can order is 20 at a time. And then precision basically says how many decimal points. So in scientific notation. So let's put 2. And then you should be able to see that if I restart the app. So it's right there. So you can order 10, and then that can go towards whatever Python interface you have for maybe the supplier's website. So I can show you guys how I'm getting the data. So this, I just created a dummy class called factory data. And you can see it here. This basically just generates a random number and then gets all of the values based on that. But again, this is just an interface for anything that can be communicated with through Python. And I think a great part of Dash and of Dash DAQ is that you can style all of your components. So I can open up a style sheet. So this is the style sheet that I have for all of these. We can maybe change the background color of this to be, let's say, red. And then that will update all of them. It doesn't look that great, so let's change it back. And you can see it updates basically instantaneously. So I can show you another app that we have made with Dash DAQ. This one is more for, sorry, hold on. Okay, so this one is for equipment. So it basically interfaces with USB 2000 plus spectrometer, and it displays the spectrogram right here. So the reason that we were able to do this is because this particular spectrometer has a Python interface, and it can be communicated with serially. Obviously, this one isn't connected to anything, so this is all just dummy data. But for example, if you change a value and then you hit update, you can actually get information back from the spectrometer. So if we choose, for example, this lamp and say that there's no lamp there, it'll give you the error message. And the app code for that I can post as well at the end. So are there any other questions? Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's basically all that I have. I'm happy to take any questions at all, even about Dash DAQ. Okay, so I'm seeing what are the licenses for this. So previously Dash DAQ was a closed source product, but now we've open sourced it, so it's MIT licensed. So you're free to use it. All the source code is online. Displaying data from a database. I don't have a specific example with Dash DAQ, but I know that there are lots of apps that interface with databases. So again, anything that you can talk to with Python can be incorporated into a Dash app. Is this streaming data? Yeah, so it actually, I wouldn't say it's exactly streaming data. It's more of like a polling type situation. So every time it requests for new data, it receives it, but you can use streaming data as well. And I can post a link of an example app that does that. Okay, let me just find it. So the app code is here. Is there a way with Python API to change default colors? What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean like styling it from within the Python app? A trace with many dynamic points. So can you color different points, different colors? Okay, yeah. So the Python, the Plotly Python API, you can change the colors of the graph, of the points, of the traces. I will post a link to that. So for example, this is color scales for heat maps or for scatter plots or anything. Interfacing Dash DAQ with web applications like Flask. So I'm currently not aware of any. You can look in the Dash gallery that, for examples that might use it. So I'll find that for you as well. So these are all of the apps that we have put up, and they're all categorized into different categories. Dynamically setting the color scale. Yeah, so you could just write a Python function to do that. You pass in, I guess, the number of traces that you need to color, and then it can compute different colors for you. Okay, so do you guys have any more questions before we wrap up here? Okay, so make sure to check out Dash. So that should be in the, there should be a little button on the screen that says try Dash. Dash has lots of libraries. Dash DAQ is just the most recent addition to our open source library, so please make sure to check out the rest of them as well. And thank you for coming to the crowdcast. All right, bye everyone.